So I've been working in colour for, well over 20 years, actually. I started out my career as a designer. So got into colour by actually creating palettes for brands and realised that's where I had a real passion. So I ended up kind of working fully in colour, I'd say about 18 years ago.
Okay.
I worked for a big agency called Dualities, and in the last sort of 6 years, I've been working with Pantone as a member of the Pantone Color Institute. Goodness me, you've got like absolutely incredible colours here. Probably when I come in, what I see straight away is the colours, actually. They're very sort of warm. They've obviously been selected as a palette, which I'm always very impressed by when someone can plant like that. But actually, the colours that I see here do remind me of the chair collection, particularly the snake, the Ouroboros, because the Ouroboros is about all the colours coming together with levels of green, which makes the whole colour range look very natural. And I can kind of see that here actually in this garden. I think the Dualities range is all about working with colour in a really practical way. When you look at the colours themselves, if you look at the colours that are in the collection for the chairs, each colour itself is very strong on its own and makes a statement on its own. But actually, when those colours combine together, the effect is quite different. It suddenly becomes a lot more natural within that snake form. I think the really important factor within the Dualities, both within the New Age pastels and the shadows, is actually the way the colours have been selected is a modern way of working with colour. I always like to say that the New Age pastels is actually a colour range that defines our times. But so around the 2010s, we started to see kind of like more pastel colours come through, but they were still quite flattened. Whereas we're now in an era which is all about these really dynamic pastel levels. And within the Dualities collection, you've got a real mix in there as well of how we look at pastels. So pastels don't just sit in one way. There's pastels which kind of have more of a softened, smoked aspect to them, or there's pastels which have got more life within them. In some cases, you might even say those pastels get close to a neon, or they're not a neon, they're just a really sort of punchy, lively pastel tones. What's really important about the Shadows collection is actually it's one of the first times that I've actually been able to work with blacks, greys, whites, soft neutrals, which are actually really do reflect how people work with those colours. When you think about like a mousse, colour of this year, that colour it's a really good example actually of when you look at a colour and look beyond the expectation. So you're looking at a brown, well actually when you look at the brown itself, it's very soft. It's got a real kind of velvety softness to it. It has lots of pink within it as well. And it's a colour which in different light situations would change how it looks. And then Dualities range has a very similar approach to it. This is the way, when we're looking at colour, Pantone, we really kind of look deep into the details of the colour to really see the subtle nuances within the colours. And Dualities is basically all about that. Each colour, has been really sort of super analysed to see like which and what is it going? Is it going to be softer, saturated, brighter, bolder, almost a neon? Each one kind of has a real sort of special aspect to it. And when I think Dualities, I almost see the same parallel where I'm thinking of good solid pastel tones, good solid greys, colours that you can really put the base of a good palette down with. But you've got in there some of these really dynamic colours. I particularly love like the sour levels that are in there, like the really sour greens, very sporty and fresh, and very sort of like, they're really trending at the moment. So you can sort of see like within that range of colours, you can go for the really traditional, solid and super commercial. Those colours will be there for, for a long time. Or you can sort of pick in and pluck out the colours which you see trending.